How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Before I Forget. This is my YouTube channel, inspired by my Instagram channel, 1985 Road Dog. Check out the Instagram if you haven't. It's got not all my photos, but a lot of my photos from my time in working in the music business and as a fan of music. Just all kinds of photos that are music related, 70s and 80s. Anyway, this channel I started before I forget because I always forget stuff. And then I'll be like, oh, I have to document that, and then I'll forget it again. So I was just thinking of some random stories related to the 80s, Sweet Pain days, just a couple of things that stood out. That band, we weren't really socially, together a lot. Me and Kelly hung out a lot because I had known Kelly way before. I got Kelly in the band, so Kelly and I were tight. And then the other three guys, didn't really hang out with them. They weren't big partiers. They weren't crazy. Me and Kelly were crazy, partying and being reckless and just being stupid. Youth. But the other guys weren't really. But one night, one day, I don't know, had to be early in the night, wasn't late, but I was with Adrian Vance, the guitar player in Sweet Pain, and we happened to be in Manhattan, right across the street, right in front of this club called Heartbreak. Heartbreak was a big nightclub. They played 50s and 60s music. That was their thing. This is in the 80s. He's like 84, 85 in there. So Heartbreak was a big club, and I was standing there with Adrian Vance and some other people. I don't know why we were even there. I can't remember why we were there. We were probably going to go to something at the club. Anyway, I'm standing with Adrian Vance outside, and I look up the street, up Varick Street, and I see Joe Strummer from The Clash, Matt Dillon, the actor, and Burt Young, the actor, Paulie from Rocky. The three of them are walking down the street, and I'm noticing them walking toward us. And I'm like, I'm not saying anything, but I'm like, it's Joe Strummer and, Matt Dillon and Burt Young. What are they doing? It's a weird threesome. What are they doing, walking down the street? Anyway, they walk right in front of us, in front of the club there, and Joe Strummer stops, and he turns and he looks at Adrian Vance, and he goes, I saw you on a poster in Shades Records in London. I was like shocked, and Adrian Vance, who's the guitarist of Sweet Pain, he didn't even know who Joe Strummer was, I don't think. He was not impressed. I'm like, and then they continued walking down the road. And I'm like, dude, Joe Strummer from The Clash recognized you. So the story is, Sweet Pain had these posters, promotional posters with picture of the band. So there was a store in London back in the 80s called Shades Records. And the guy that was the buyer for the record store bought all the metal and the glam stuff from America mainly, was this guy, Kel the Hellraiser. If you're deep into the glam scene, you'll know who this guy is. Anyway, so he was into Sweet Pain, so we sent him a bunch of promotional stuff over to the store. So we sent him a poster, so he must have hung the poster in the window at Shades Records, and Joe Strummer in London saw the poster, and then walking down Varick Street in Manhattan, recognized Adrian Vance. Now, he had, really long, black, kind of frizzy hair. He looked like Morticia Adams, but like Cousin It, kind of. His hair was really, unmistakable. So Joe Strummer saw that picture, that poster in Shades Records, and recognized him on the street in Varick Street, Manhattan. I was in awe. I was just like, I love Joe Strummer. I was like, I couldn't even speak. And he's like, Adrian Vance, like, cool. And he walks away. I'm like, dude, that's Joe Strummer with Matt Dillon and Burt Young. Joe Strummer recognized you. He was like not impressed. I'm still impressed to this day. Because if you know Joe Strummer, that's just the kind of guy he is. He's such a man of the people. So that was incredible. The other one, the other story I remembered was Wasp, Metallica, and Armored Saint played at Lamour in Brooklyn. They were on tour in I don't know if, I think it might have been January 85, around in there. They were playing the clubs and smaller, smaller or theaters and that kind of thing. It was Wasp, Metallica, and Armored Saint. So it was 3 nights, I think. I went to 2 out of the 3, I believe. But anyway, one night I went with Ronnie Taz, who was the drummer in Sweet Pain. And he went on to join the band The Throbs. They had an album on Geffen. And now he's somewhere else playing jazz, which is cool. Anyway, we went to Lamour. I always had the hookup to everything. I had guest list. I always finagled my way in. So anyway, we were on the guest list for the Wasp show. I think we had some backstage passes. It was Wasp, Metallica, Armored Saint. So it was Armored Saint, Metallica in the middle, and Wasp closed the show. And I mean, it's, Metallica's so big now. It's like, it's gotten like trendy to be a Metallica fan and all this stuff because of Stranger Things and all that kind of stuff. But Metallica was, they were true to who they were, but they were an acquired taste Metallica. Thrash wasn't like a thing yet, really. It was starting to happen. So Metallica was in the middle. So, being that it was 1980, early 85, January 85, I was, my old self of a drinking, partying mess, doing drugs. And the drummer, Ronnie Taz, the Sweet Pain drummer, he wasn't a partier really, have a beer. But I was a maniac, and I'm not bragging this. I'm just saying this is what it was. So we got friendly with the Armored Saint guys. I remember being on the bus with Armored Saint, hanging out, and we were talking and drinking and drugging and everything. And then I, saw a little bit of Metallica. I didn't care about Metallica. I wasn't a Thrash fan. And you have to understand, in those days, it was a definite Thrash versus posers. It was so stupid, the whole thing. You're a poser because you're a glam guy. As opposed to, I'm a dirty, smell like sweat and beer, dirtbag. That's what Metallica was, and that's what their fans were. They were like a dirtbag band. And I wasn't into that. I wasn't into and it's not like I was like hating the music so much or anything, but it was the attitude and the whole vibe of the whole thing, death to posers and all this stuff. It was so stupid. Because when it came down to the nitty gritty, it doesn't matter what I was wearing, I could hold my own. So they'd be, that's the point. It was all based on looks, which was dumb. They didn't know the person. They just knew, oh, this guy, he's a glam guy. He doesn't look like us, which is a dirtbag. But Metallica's so trendy now and big, and Metallica's huge. So I mean, I'm not knocking Metallica, but at that time they were middle of the bill, and Wasp was top of the bill, and Wasp blew Metallica away, in my opinion. Anyway, we were wandering around backstage, and if you know Lamour, Brooklyn, the backstage is weird. There's little rooms, there's a basement. It's not a great backstage or dressing room situation. So somehow we found ourselves in the Metallica dressing room after the Metallica show. And I was in, drunk and drugged out mania and being loud and obnoxious and talking to people. And, of course, there were girls around, and I'm talking to all the girls. And Ronnie Taz was a tall guy. I don't know how tall he was, but he was tall and skinny. He was like a Tommy Lee build. He was talking to girl. So we're kind of like stealing the thunder from the Metallica dressing room, so to speak. So Hetfield, I don't know exactly what happened. He said something to me. I said something to him. I'm pushing and shoving, and I threw a punch. And 2 security guys grabbed me and threw me out the door of Lamour out into the street. But of course, I got myself back in and watched Wasp. But that couple of 2 or 3 days with that Metallica Wasp thing over there was nuts for me. I was crazy. But that was another story that I forgot about that I don't even know how I remembered that one. But there's so many of these. So I'm just trying to get them down onto video. So one day when I'm gone, somebody will be like, look what went on in 1985 in Lamour, Brooklyn. So yeah, those are just two stories that I thought about. Like I just remembered because there wasn't a lot of crazy partying with the Sweet Pain thing. It was much more, you know, they weren't like those other three guys, and then it became the other two guys weren't like me and Kelly, which we were nuts. Um, when Sweet Pain played Lamour, Brooklyn, opening for Ace Frehley, which was insane. We had more shit thrown at us on stage than it was nuts. But after that show, Kelly had this old, I don't know if it was a Camaro or Firebird. He had one of those kind of cars, and it was old and black, and he has all like, you know, gray, like this matte gray color because he was painting it, and he had Batman stickers all over the place. We were driving home from Lamour after that. It was late. I don't know what time it was, 4 a.m. And his steering wheel falls off. And he's driving down the, you know, the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. I'm like, what the hell, dude? And he's putting the steering wheel back on, and he's like tightening it with the nut in the middle to like fasten it onto the steering column. I'm like, you know, that's me and him, and, you know, and messed up, drunk and drugged and just a mess. So the other three guys weren't like us in that respect. But I just wanted to get those couple things down because, again, I forgot about them, and now they're coming back to me. And I'm going to try to do some more of these kind of quick hit and miss things hit and run things because I forget them again. So, hey, listen, thanks for tuning in and listening to me blabber away. 1985 Road Dogs, the Instagram. Check it out. Thank you again. Hope all's well. Ciao.